Hello, everyone. My name is Connie Nshemereirwe, and I'm the host of the podcast, A is Not for Apple. The podcast is all about examining or commenting on the extent to which our education systems reflect the lived experiences of we Africans, and how we can, in turn, enable that education to help us engage with the challenges that we face, the inconsistencies that we see in our reality. And this morning, I am delighted to welcome a guest from Nigeria, Professor Ojebode Ayobami, a researcher and scholar and keynote speaker, and has been invited across West Africa, Europe, North and South America. And his concerns are all for the quality of tertiary level education. And so he has participated widely in curriculum consultations, upskilling workshops, and pedagogical innovations. Ayo, you are very welcome this morning.
Thank you very much, Connie. It's indeed my pleasure to join you in this discussion.
Yes, I look forward to hearing your views. And I'll start by asking, I know that you teach a course on development communication at the University of Ibadan. And the reason that I really asked you here today was to hear from you how, as a person that is also involved in pedagogical innovation, how you feel that our education system has prepared your students to participate in helping society overcome our challenges as Africans. Would you say that the education system has prepared them well? And if not, why not?
A lot has been said about the quality of education in Africa and in other parts of the world, to be sincere. And genuine concerns have been expressed by stakeholders about these issues. The first point I want to make is that these concerns are not new. From generations to generations, there have been concerns about the quality of education. I mean, take for instance, way back when writing was invented. Yeah, you are talking of something of some 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. Scholars then and stakeholders in the educational system, what we can call the educational system, then worried a lot that writing was going to make a robot of people, because scholarship and education was expressed in how well and how much you could memorize and remember. So writing was going to make memorization unnecessary. And they thought this is going to make people who are not scholars to begin to claim to be scholars. It was a huge alarm then. And then printing was invented. In fact, when pencil was invented, it created its own uproar. People think, oh, people are going to be very shoddy and carefree because then they are going to just write carelessly, knowing fully well that they could clean up the mess. Education and quality of education then was measured in how much you could loop your handwriting using ink that cannot be, that was indelible. So pencil was going to make that unnecessary. It was going to create scholars that were careless and carefree. The whole thing went on when print was invented, when textbooks came, people felt one day the whole world, people will not be able to move because there'll be too much textbooks on the roads, in the streets, and all of that. So these concerns are not new. You can go on and on right up to the present day. These concerns are not new, but then they are not without grounds and they should not be ignored. The point I'm trying to make is that we need this kind of conversation all the time to keep us in check, to help us examine what is going on and to see how we can make a good situation better, or if we think it's bad, how we can make it good. Generally, when you talk of students being prepared to help them realize or to help them join society to realize its potential for itself, and whether the education system currently has prepared them for that, the answer is quite obvious. For us in Nigeria, and I dare say in many parts of Africa, there is a clear and sharp disconnect between the goal and the objectives of the education of society as enshrined in our constitutions and in our policy documents, and the goal and the drive and motivations of the educational system. I mean, this is ironical because those who designed the goal of the society were also the ones who worked hand in hand with experts to design the aim and objectives of the educational system. Yet these two don't seem to sync at all. On paper, they sync. The Constitution of Nigeria, for instance, says we want a society that is egalitarian, with full potentials realized, of a land flowing with milk and honey, whatever that meant. And then our educational system is also tailored. In fact, it takes it up from the educational policy, actually more or less paraphrase the Constitution. On paper, they agree. But in practice, that is where the problem is. We can't say it too often. The aim of every parent that sends their child to school in Nigeria and many parts of Africa is for this child to do well in national and international exams. It is not for this child to become responsible citizens. It is not for this child to be able to solve their own problems and the problems of society. They want their children to be good. They want them to become responsible citizens. They want them to be able to serve Nigeria with all their strength, as our national anthem says, our national pledge says. They want all of that to happen, but they do not think that is the purpose for which students are sent to school. And in all honesty, the school also no longer thinks that is why the children come to school. The children come to school to learn how to pass the exam in good grades so that then they go on to another step of the educational ladder. And so you see the educational system moving children this way, and then the society expecting something else that way. This is where the disconnect I'm talking about occurs.
And so when you have your students in the development communication class, what sort of gaps do you see? Because I am going to believe that as a pedagogical innovator, you are trying to get around this expectation that they're only there to pass exams and trying to really get them to engage with the needs of society when they leave the university.
What I do is to be very, very deliberate about this. Now, I am convinced after some 20 years as a lecturer in the university that I have some freedom, in fact, a huge amount of freedom to decide what I teach and why I teach what I teach. So I have the approved curriculum, I have the approved aims and objectives of my course, but then it's my duty to move my students one step at a time towards accomplishing these aims and objectives. So I ask myself, really, what kind of people do I want these children to be after 13 weeks or 14 weeks of lecture? Where are they and where do I want them to be? And so in my development communication class, I make it clear from the beginning that if the reason you are here is to score good grades, you can go, you are going to score good grades. You can leave this course today, come back and write the exam, you are going to score good grades. But I am committed to raising a generation of change agents, people who will go there and quietly influence where they find themselves. And I think in this class, I have a group of people who have enough intelligence, the heart and the emotion and the skills to become those change agents. And so I don't know if it makes much sense to them, but from time to time, I feel their passion rise in service to society. I feel their passion rise about poverty alleviation, if possible, elimination. I feel their passion and commitment rise about injustice and how to redress that. I also see them present themselves as people who really are going to do that for society. Now, that is my course. That is what I'm able to do. Somebody who teaches quantum physics may not be able to do that. Now, my course is all about how you use media to address development issues. And development issues today begin from issues of poverty, injustice, gender equity or equality, climate change, peace, and so on and so forth. So you see, it's easy for me because these are issues that are burning out there in society. And so I tell them, if it is to get good grades here, you will get it. But that is not why I am here. It also has to be an ongoing, endless assessment of what I'm teaching and how I'm teaching it. And this is why midway into the course, I always ask my students to take a day off and to assess me and where we are and what they are learning. Sometimes I do this anonymously.
What difficulties do you find with your students in changing their mindset from passing exams to really engaging with the material and developing the skill to carry out this development communication?
Yeah, I think this is where the problem is. You are talking to a young person who's done 3 years of pre-nursery, 2 years of pre-nursery, 2 years of nursery, 5 years or 6 years of primary education. That is 10 years altogether. And then 6 years of secondary education. This person has been in school for 16 years, learning how to study to pass exam. And here comes one guy standing in front of the class or on Zoom, telling them what matters most is not to pass exam. Moving them from that mindset that I have to boost my CGPA into a mindset that says you can boost your CGPA and still be useful to yourself and to your society. It takes a lot of balancing, and they need reassurance. Sometimes they feel like maybe he's setting us up so that we'll fail. They need that reassurance, and the reassurance comes with their constant continuous assessment. And so when people see their continuous assessment and they think, oh, I have 7 out of 10 and I thought I was going to have 5, then they understand that you really mean what you are saying about them having a good grade and still being useful to society. And I have examples of my students who have gone ahead, even as part of their continuous assessment, to do amazing, amazing things that I didn't think about. So that constant reassurance, that then plus examples of people who have passed through the course and what they are doing to society out there helps to liberate them. I remember the last set of students that I taught, we finished the first meeting, and as I was going to say, okay, bye-bye, everybody, they kept saying, you have not taken the attendance. You have not taken the attendance. Yeah, because in my university, attendance is a big issue. You have to say who came and how many times they came and so on and so forth. And attendance may be the reason that somebody will be given an extra 2 points to move them to the next grade and so on and so forth. And I was taken aback because we just finished saying grades are not the only things that matter. And here they are you've not taken attendance. And so I had to take attendance to keep their mind at peace. And so it's an ongoing, you see, it's like undoing 16 years or more of what has been, I could say, wrongly done.
You mentioned earlier that you feel that the problems that these students face is in these 16 years where they have been expected to study hard and pass the exams, no matter whether they pick up any skills or knowledge or not. Would you imagine a system where this problem could be addressed, and how could it be addressed? Just imagine it and think, if I had the power to address this problem, I would go about it this way.
I think this is an important question. I like the way you ended it. If I had the power to change something, what would I change? Now you're asking me to dream and to imagine a world where I have all the power to make changes. We can bring that to, okay, what is possible in the current situation that we have. I think I am going to really create an educational system where the first teachers would be the parents. Because you see, right now, parents expect schools to teach their children to pass exams. Who is teaching them morals? Who is teaching them community service? Who is teaching them sense of justice? Who is teaching them commitment? Who is teaching them emotional intelligence? The parents are busy working so that they earn money to pay the school to teach the students to pass the exam. And the school has to do that in order to keep the parents coming and paying. So it's a completely transactional system. Now there is something in the middle that is very important. National values, cultural values, and some of those things that cannot be examined through written examination. So in my view, I think I am going to create a system where parents are also teachers and teachers are also parents, at least in the first few years. I'm going to create a system where the language of instruction will be the mother tongue of the children. Then this system has to be instantly responsive to the problems happening immediately outside the fence of the school. So we do not teach personal hygiene. And then students learn personal hygiene. They learn about germs, they learn about washing your hands. And then next door is a garbage heap that nobody is talking about. So students see these things that we're teaching, then they see the hips that is unaddressed, and then they know that all they are being taught is just to help them pass the exam. It's not to help them change society. So what are those immediate problems outside the fence of this school, even within the school? So each school headmaster or principal will then be a curriculum expert. And curricula are going to be completely flexible. And if curricula are flexible, then national examinations become very useless, unnecessary. Students learn as responses to their immediate problems. And the immediate problems down in Kampala will be different from immediate problems up in Gulu. So national examinations will be completely unnecessary, in fact, counterproductive.
What we are really also examining in this podcast is the extent to which the education system connects to our reality, the reality around us. And so I wonder if you can comment on what children learn in class and the extent to which that really connects to the reality outside class.
I try to make the point that what is driving the educational systems, or should I say what is driving what happens in the schools today, has nothing to do with the lived experiences of the children or the needs of the society or some other high and lofty needs and ideals. What is driving the educational system and the instruction and the approach to the instruction that's going on in the class today is the need for children to do well in national and international examinations. This is something that has to be addressed. If I had the power, I'm going to insist that every school principal or headmaster should be the curriculum expert. There will be some skeletal structure, but then the real content of instruction should be drafted from the lived experiences of the children. So we teach personal hygiene, for instance, in, say, science class. We teach how germs are transmitted and so on and so forth. Or we teach methods of waste disposals. These things are right there in our textbooks. We teach our students to know it. We teach them to remember it during the exam. We use mnemonics for them, Mr. Niger D, so that they will remember in the exam and then they will pass. But then there is a huge garbage heap just outside the fence of the school, and we are not doing anything about that. I think a good and sensitive educational system should be responsive to the immediate environment in a way that what students learn in school speaks directly to what they see. If we think, okay, we have talked about methods of waste disposal, that's waste. So let's go as a class led by the teacher to go and dispose it. How do we do that? We need to tell the local inspector of education. So they need to give us the funds we need or the experts we need, and then we get rid of this waste. Now that becomes a lived experience of the students, and they see the content of instruction responding to real life issues. That hardly happens. Yeah. That hardly happens. So there is this disconnect between the experiences and the things they are learning. I've had the privilege of moving my students in that direction with some measure of success. I taught students in my development communications classes in 2011, that's about 10 years ago. And we were talking about how to use different communication methods and strategies to address burning issues in society. In things like poverty, things like health issues. At the end, towards the end of the class, we stopped lectures and I say, look around, find a problem, constitute a team, and do something about it. And I say, you are never to take money from your pocket to solve that problem. You must find community-based resources to mobilize resources to solve the problem. And the students broke into some 11 to 15 groups. It's amazing the kind of things they ended up doing. A group went to a school to go and talk about hand washing. And they discovered that about 3/4 of the students came to school without wearing shoes. And they said, how can we talk about hand washing when these children pass through all these shrapnels with wounds on their feet and because they have no shoes? So, and then they knew, I told them, you are at liberty to do whatever you do. We discuss hand washing, but I'm not giving you a commandment to go and do hand washing communication or whatever. So as long as you don't use your own money to solve the problem or use your own resources to solve the problem of the community, I'm good with you. And so they called PTA meetings, they called teachers meeting, they went to talk to the students. At the end of the day, they were able to get 45 pairs of sandals for these students, from donations from the community, from donations from PTA, and so on and so forth. Now, that's small. But then I see them list that. Many of them list that on their CVs today. One of them has gone ahead to become the owner of a big, or the founder of a big NGO that is addressing underserved communities all over Nigeria. I don't know, I don't have a list of all of them, but you see, that is the kind of thing I am talking about. Now, that school is like 10 to 15 minutes drive from my university. The school had always been there. We had always talked of the Millennium Development Goals and all of this and that, but it was there. Nobody thought anything could happen. Nobody even knew anything was wrong. Now, right. That kind of experience is the thing I'm thinking about. Can we move the classroom from where it is to the society that set it up, so that both of them can begin to have a vital dialogue?
And as I listen to you, I realize that while we in class can have a list of things on how to address a certain issue, when the students go out and experience the situation themselves, oftentimes they might find, number one, the problem was not what we thought it was. Number two, we can innovate. We can find new ways that are not on this list of ways to solve a problem that they can come up with. So, yeah. And as you have said, it can really result in lifelong commitment to solving the problems of society. And this can start in the school.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, that's really interesting. And so I guess you could, you earlier on you said what sort of advice, that you might give this advice to someone who does development communication, but I can see that it might also be useful to someone who teaches quantum physics, because why do we learn quantum physics? I am sure if teachers had the mindset to connect what they were teaching in class to something in their immediate environment, teachers are innovative enough or imaginative enough, or if just as long as they have the idea, they could find a way to find a connection. And if they cannot find a connection, I guess they have to ask, why are we teaching this subject? Why are we teaching this content? And perhaps even find that there are certain things that they are not addressing or teaching that concern the community, that they should then now begin to address or explore as teachers.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Maybe we start with the ones that are very obvious, you know, the ones that are easy to do. Yeah. Biology, for instance. But I mean, I was taught vegetative propagation of plants, and I was told you could graft. And I was shown the picture in the textbook, and I was told the steps in grafting. But there are 100 mango trees in my school. That was everything we needed in the school. The teacher did not do any grafting to tell us what it means, to demonstrate it. And so now, I want to graft now, but I don't know how to do it. But the teacher did everything needed to be done to make us pass this exam. And we did. We passed the national exam, yet we still can't graft.
No.
So this is where the problem is. This is where the problem is. The devil in the room is national exams and international exams.
Yeah. Correct. So I really have enjoyed speaking with you on this subject, Professor Ojebode, and have learned that indeed the design of our education systems is very lofty. It really aims at very high ideals, but the practice of the education has been overtaken by the need for students or children to pass exams, a need that also parents have bought into, and therefore teachers and head teachers have to buy into. Whereas in fact, from your view as a pedagogical innovator, you find that there are all sorts of ways that one can take the content that exists in the curriculum and still directly connect it to the experiences that the children have day to day, to the communities that surround the schools, and that in that way, the connection can be made between the schooling that they are getting and the problems in their own society, and at the same time actually pass their exams. I think that's a really brilliant way of looking at the whole system, and I've really appreciated your contribution.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.